Have you ever had one of those moments where everything feels normal? Calm, quiet. Just another ordinary day. Maybe you're sitting alone at your kitchen table. Maybe the TV is playing in the background. Maybe you're halfway through a meal you've eaten 100 times before. Nothing special, nothing dangerous, just life. And then suddenly, something changes. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a small mistake. A bite that goes down wrong. And in that exact second, everything flips. Because now you're not just eating anymore. Now you're fighting for air. And here's the part nobody really prepares you for. Choking doesn't feel like what you see in movies. There's no loud screaming, no dramatic gasping for help, no big warning sign flashing in front of you. It's quiet, terrifyingly quiet. Your throat tightens, your chest locks up, and your body goes into pure panic mode while your brain struggles to catch up, trying to understand what just happened, and before you even process it. Your oxygen is already dropping, your heartbeat is rising, and your hands start moving without direction, grabbing your throat, pushing against your chest, standing up, sitting down, walking in circles like your body is searching for an answer it doesn't have yet. And right there, in those first few seconds, that confusion, that hesitation, that is where most people lose control of the situation. Especially after 60, when your reflexes are slower, your muscles aren't as strong as they used to be, and your body doesn't recover as quickly under stress. And I know this might sound intense, maybe even a little uncomfortable to hear, but you need to hear it. Because the truth is simple and brutal. If you're alone when it happens, nobody is coming to save you. There's no one running in from the next room. No one dialing emergency services for you. No one performing the Heimlich maneuver from behind. It's just you. And those next 23 seconds will decide everything. Not minutes, not hours. Seconds, because your brain begins to suffer without oxygen faster than most people realize. And the difference between surviving and not surviving often comes down to one thing. Do you act immediately? Or do you freeze? And freezing is natural. Don't get me wrong. Your brain is wired to pause when something shocking happens. It's trying to understand, to process, to make sense of the situation. But choking doesn't give you time to think. It demands action before clarity. And that's why so many people, especially older adults, don't make it through situations that were actually survivable. Because they spent those first critical moments hoping it would pass instead of forcing it to stop. And let me paint this picture even clearer for you, because I want you to feel it, not just hear it. Imagine you take a bite of food, something soft, maybe bread, maybe a piece of fruit, something you would never expect to be dangerous. And suddenly it blocks your airway, completely, not partially, completely. And now when you try to breathe, nothing happens. Number air comes in, no air goes out, and you try to cough, but it's weak, ineffective, almost silent, because the airway is blocked. And that's when fear hits you, real fear, not the kind you feel watching a movie, but the kind that grips your chest and tightens your entire body, and your mind starts racing. What do I do? What do I do? But here's the thing, by the time you're asking that question, you're already losing time, and time is the one thing you don't have in that moment. So instead of asking what to do, you need to already know what to do. And that's exactly why this matters. That's why you're here. That's why this message could be the difference between panic and action. Because the body has a way to save itself, but only if you activate it. Only if you push past that hesitation and take control. And yes, it will feel aggressive. It will feel unnatural, maybe even a little scary. But that's because you're not used to thinking of yourself as your own rescuer. And that mindset shift, that is everything. Because when choking happens and you're alone, you are the only person who can step in. And that means you need to act with urgency. Not politeness, Not hesitation, not doubt, but urgency. The kind of urgency that says, I am not waiting, I am not hoping. I am doing something right now. And that action begins with understanding that your goal is simple. Force air out of your lungs, to push the obstruction out of your airway. That's it. That's the mission. And your body is capable of doing it. But it needs help. It needs force. And this is where most people hesitate because they're afraid of hurting themselves. They're afraid of doing it wrong. They're afraid of making it worse. But let me tell you something very clearly in that moment. Doing nothing is what makes it worse. Hesitation is what makes it worse. Fear is what makes it worse. Action, even imperfect action, is what gives you a chance. And I want you to really let that sink in, because it goes against everything we're taught about being careful, about thinking things through, about staying calm. But choking is not a situation where calm thinking saves you. Immediate action does. And here's something else that might surprise you. Choking incidents after 60 are far more common than most people realize. And they don't just happen with big obvious foods like steak or chicken. They happen with bread, rice, pills, even small bites that weren't chewed properly. And sometimes it's not even about the food itself. It's about how your body changes over time. Your swallowing reflex slows down. Your saliva production decreases. Certain medications dry out your throat, making it harder to swallow smoothly. And suddenly something that was never a problem before becomes a serious risk. And the worst part is, most people don't adjust their habits. They eat the same way, at the same speed, with the same distractions. Watching TV, talking, scrolling their phones, not realizing that their body is no longer as forgiving as it once was. And I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this to wake you up. Because awareness is power. And once you see the risk, you can start making small changes that reduce it dramatically. Like slowing down when you eat, chewing more thoroughly, sitting upright instead of leaning back, avoiding talking while swallowing. Simple things, almost too simple. But they matter more than you think. And yet, even with all the prevention in the world, accidents can still happen. And that's why knowing what to do in those first 23 seconds is not optional. It's essential. It's the difference between reacting and freezing, between surviving and not. And I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine that you're not alone right now. Imagine that someone you care about deeply, a parent, a friend, someone over 60, is the one in this situation. They're sitting alone, choking, unable to breathe, unable to call for help, and they have those same 23 seconds. Would you want them to know what to do? Or would you want them to panic and hope it passes? Because that answer right there tells you everything you need to know about why this matters. Not just for you, but for the people you care about. And if this is hitting you, if this is making you think differently, if you're starting to realize just how real this is, then don't just sit there and move on like it's another video. Engage with it, let it stick. Because information only helps if it stays with you. So right now, I want you to mentally commit to something. If this ever happens, you will act immediately. You will not freeze. You will not hesitate. You will not wait for it to pass. You will take control of the situation. Because that decision, made right now, while you're safe, is what will guide you in the moment when panic tries to take over. And in part 2, we're going deeper into exactly what you need to do physically, step into action, how to turn your body into your own rescue system, and the mistakes that silently cost lives every single day without anyone even realizing it. And now we get to the part that most people avoid thinking about, the part where everything becomes real, because knowing that choking is dangerous is one thing, but knowing exactly what to do with your body in those few seconds when panic is rising and oxygen is dropping, that's something completely different. And this is where lives are either saved or lost. Not because of luck, not because of strength, but because of action. Because when your airway is blocked and you're alone, your body is still capable of saving you, but only if you force it to respond. Only if you take control before fear takes control of you. And I want you to picture this again. Not casually, but seriously. Because the more real it feels now, the more prepared you will be if it ever happens. You're alone, something is stuck in your throat. You try to breathe and nothing comes in. Your chest tightens, your mind starts racing. Your instinct is to panic, maybe to run, maybe to grab water, maybe to cough weakly and hope it clears. But this is exactly where most people make the biggest mistake of all. They waste those first precious seconds doing things that do not work, drinking water, trying to swallow again, tapping their chest lightly, pacing around like movement will fix it. But choking is mechanical, not emotional. It doesn't respond to hope, it responds to force. And that's the shift you need to make instantly. From panic to pressure, from confusion to action. Because your goal is not to relax. Your goal is to create a burst of air strong enough to push that blockage out. And the only way to do that is by using your body aggressively and intentionally. And yes, that word matters, aggressively. Because gentle movements will not save you here. Hesitation will not save you. You need sharp, decisive force. And this is where the self-Heimlich maneuver becomes your lifeline. Not as an idea, not as something you've heard before, but as something you actually do, immediately, without second guessing. You make a fist, place it just above your belly button, below your rib cage, grab it with your other hand, and you drive it inward and upward, hard, like you're trying to lift yourself off the ground with that motion. Because what you're really doing is compressing your diaphragm, forcing air out of your lungs in a powerful burst. And that burst is what can dislodge the object blocking your airway. And I need you to understand something very clearly. This is not a gentle push. This is not something you try once and then stop. This is repeated, forceful thrusts. Again and again, with urgency, because every second matters. And I know some people hesitate here because they're afraid of hurting themselves. Maybe they're thinking, what if I break a rib? What if I do it wrong? But let me tell you something straight. In that moment, a bruised rib is a victory. Pain is a sign that you're doing something. But silence, stillness, hesitation, that's what leads to tragedy. And if the self-thrusts don't work immediately, you escalate, you don't pause. You don't rethink. You move to the next level, which is using a solid object, something that doesn't move, something that can give you resistance, like the back of a chair, the edge of a table, a countertop, even a wall corner if you have to, and you position your abdomen against it, right where your fist would go, and you drive your body into it, forcefully, repeatedly, using your own weight, your own momentum, because now you're not just relying on your arms. You're using your entire body to create that pressure. And yes, it will feel intense. It might even feel violent. But that's exactly what it needs to be. Because choking is not a gentle situation. It's an emergency. And your response needs to match that level of urgency. And here's something most people don't realize. Choking is often silent. There's no dramatic coughing. No shouting for help, especially when the airway is fully blocked. You can't speak, you can't call out, which means if you're alone, nobody even knows what's happening. There's no one coming to check on you, no one hearing you struggle. It's just you and your ability to act, and that's why these first 23 seconds are so critical. Because once your body starts losing oxygen, your strength begins to fade, your coordination drops. Your ability to think clearly disappears, and what started as a situation you could control becomes one you can't. And that's the part that's hardest to accept, because it means that your window to act is small, but it also means that within that window, You have power, real power, the power to save yourself. And I want to tell you something that might stick with you. Something simple but real. Your body doesn't need perfection to survive. It needs effort. It needs movement. It needs force. And the people who make it through these moments are not always the strongest or the fastest. They're the ones who act without waiting, the ones who refuse to freeze, the ones who push through that initial shock and do something, anything that creates pressure and movement. And there was a woman, 72 years old, living alone, independent, sharp, just like so many people watching this. She choked on a piece of bread, something soft, something she had eaten her entire life without thinking. And when it happened, she didn't panic the way most people do. She remembered a simple idea: pressure, force, action. She grabbed the back of her chair and drove herself into it. Once, twice, nothing. Her vision started narrowing, her body weakening, but she didn't stop. Third time, harder, with everything she had left. And suddenly, the blockage came out, and she dropped to the floor, breathing again, shaking, overwhelmed, but alive. And later she said something that matters more than anything else. She said, "I didn't have time to be scared. I only had time to act." And that's the mindset you need to build. Not in the moment, but right now, because when the moment comes, you won't have time to think your way through it. You'll only have time to react based on what you already know. And that's why repeating this, visualizing it, understanding it deeply, that's what prepares you. That's what turns knowledge into instinct. And I want you to take a second and imagine yourself doing it. Not casually, but seriously. Feel where your hands would go. Picture the movement, the force, the urgency. Because the more real it feels now, the more automatic it will be later. And if this is starting to hit you, if you're realizing that this is something you never really thought about before, something you assumed would never happen to you, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it, because chances are, someone you care about is just as unprepared as you were a few minutes ago. And this knowledge, simple as it is, can literally be the difference between life and death. And I'm not saying that lightly. I'm saying it because it's true. Because every year, people lose their lives to choking situations that could have been survived with immediate action. And the only difference between those who make it and those who don't is not luck. It's awareness. It's preparation. It's the decision to act instead of freeze. And in part 3, we're going even deeper into the hidden risks, the silent habits that increase your chances without you realizing it, and the final mindset shift that could save not just your life, but someone else's too when it matters the most. And now here's the part that most people never talk about, the quiet truth that sits underneath everything you've just heard. Because choking isn't just about a moment. It's about habits, patterns, small everyday choices that slowly build risk without you even realizing it. And after 60, those small things matter more than ever. Your body changes in ways that are easy to ignore, but impossible to escape. Your swallowing muscles aren't as strong. Your reflexes aren't as fast. Your throat may be drier because of medications. And suddenly, something as simple as eating becomes a situation that requires awareness. Not fear, but awareness, because the danger doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock on your door and say, "Hey, be careful today." It shows up quietly, in the middle of a normal meal, in the comfort of your home, in a moment when you feel completely safe. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous, because it catches people off guard. And when people are caught off guard, they hesitate. And hesitation in those first seconds is what turns a manageable situation into a life-threatening one. And I want you to really understand this on a deeper level, not just as information, but as something personal. Because this isn't about statistics. This isn't about numbers. This is about real people. People who had plans for the next day, People who thought they had more time. People who were doing something as simple as eating dinner when everything changed in an instant. And the difference between those who survived and those who didn't often comes down to one thing: preparation. Not physical strength, not age, not luck, but preparation. Knowing what to do before you need to do it, and acting without hesitation when the moment arrives. And there's something else that matters just as much, something most people overlook completely. And that's the environment you create for yourself every single day. Because safety doesn't start in an emergency. It starts long before it, in the way you eat, the way you sit, the way you pay attention to your body and think about it for a second. How often do people rush through meals, distracted by a screen, talking while chewing, taking bites that are too big, not because they don't care, but because it's become normal, and that normal behavior is exactly what increases the risk over time, especially when your body isn't as forgiving as it used to be. And I'm not saying you need to live in fear, not at all. But I'm saying that a small shift in awareness can make a huge difference. Slowing down, chewing thoroughly, taking a breath between bites, staying present while you eat, these are simple actions. Almost too simple to take seriously, but they are powerful, because they reduce the chances of choking before it even becomes a situation. And prevention, when you really think about it, is the quiet hero in all of this. It doesn't get attention, it doesn't feel dramatic, but it saves lives every single day. And yet, even with all the prevention in the world, life is unpredictable. Accidents still happen. And that's why everything you've heard so far matters. Because if that moment ever comes, if something goes wrong, if your airway is blocked and you're alone, you don't have time to think. You don't have time to search for answers. You only have time to act. And the way you act in that moment is determined by what you've already decided right now. And I want to bring you back to something simple but powerful. Something that ties everything together. You are not helpless in that situation. You are not waiting for someone else to save you. You are capable of saving yourself. But only if you believe that, and only if you act on it immediately. And I know that might feel like a heavy responsibility, but it's also empowering. Because it means you have control, real control, in a moment where most people feel completely powerless. And that shift from helplessness to control is what changes everything. And I want to share one last story with you, not to scare you, but to make this real in a way that stays with you. There was a man, 74 years old, living alone, strong, independent. The kind of person who never thought something like this would happen to him. One evening he was eating dinner. Nothing unusual, just another normal night. And then it happened. Something got stuck, completely blocking his airway. And in that moment, he felt the same panic, the same confusion, the same instinct freeze that anyone would feel. But then something different happened, something that changed the outcome. He remembered, not perfectly, not in detail, but just enough. Pressure, force, act immediately. And without waiting, without overthinking. He moved to the counter and drove his body against it. Hard, once, twice, his strength fading, his vision narrowing, but he didn't stop. He acted again. And that final push cleared the blockage. And he collapsed to the floor, gasping for air, alive. And later when he talked about it, he didn't describe it as bravery. He didn't describe it as strength. He described it as a decision. A decision made before the moment ever happened. A decision to act instead of freeze. And that's what I want you to take with you. Not fear, not anxiety, but a decision, a simple, clear decision that if this ever happens, you will act immediately. You will use your body. You will create force. You will not wait. You will not hope. You will take control. Because those first 23 seconds are not just time. They are opportunity. The opportunity to save your own life, and maybe even the life of someone you love one day. Because once you know this, you don't just carry it for yourself. You carry it for others too. And if this message has reached you, if it's made you think, if it's made you feel something, then don't let it end here. Don't let it fade like just another video. Turn it into action, share it with someone, talk about it, make it real, because awareness shared is lives saved, and you never know whose life that might be. Right after this video ends, don't scroll, don't move on. Don't say, "I'll remember this later." Stand up right where you are. Go to a chair or a countertop and slowly practice the motion of the self-Heimlich maneuver. Feel the position. Understand the movement. Build that muscle memory now while you're safe. Because in a real emergency, you won't have time to learn, only time to react. And promise yourself something simple but powerful. From today forward, you will eat slower, chew better, stay aware. And most importantly, you will never freeze in those first 23 seconds. Because that decision, made today, could be the reason you're still here tomorrow.